What is fueling the new scramble for Africa's minerals? Good morning and welcome to Business Week. Over the next hour, my guests and I will be discussing some of the top stories and events that made global headlines this week. And later on, we'll take a look at the growing rush for Africa's battery minerals as the world moves to transition to cleaner energy. I'm Rolake Akinkugbe-Filani. And now for some top business stories. Bath & Beyond, the once popular U.S. home goods retailer, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. In recent years, the company has failed to keep up with the rise of online shopping. After a weak holiday sales period, the company has struggled to manage its debt load with additional financing. The retailer says it intends to continue to operate its nearly 400-bed Bath & Beyond stores and an additional 120 baby retail store locations as it seeks to find buyers for some or all of its assets. CEO of Google's parent company Alphabet, Sundar Pichai, received $226 million in total compensation in 2022, most of which came through stock awards, according to a securities report filed by the company last Friday. Pichai was awarded $218 million in equity last year through a triennial stock grant. His annual salary was $2 million from 2020 to 2022, the filing stated. The CEO's compensation package also included almost $6 million for personal security in 2022. Chicago wheat futures gained almost 1% after Russia threatened to terminate a grain deal allowing Ukrainian exports and raising concerns over world supplies. Russia's former president Dmitry Medvedev said on Sunday that if the G7 moved to ban exports to Russia, Moscow would respond by terminating the Black Sea grain deal that enables vital exports of grain from Ukraine. The G7 countries are considering a near-total ban on exports to Russia. In response to the government of Ghana's sovereign bond default, 5 Tier 1 banks with subsidiaries in the West African country have made total provisions of about 468 billion naira net impairment charges in 2022 financial year, as against 236 billion naira net impairment charges in the 2021 financial year. The Tier 1 banks are Zenith Bank PLC, Access Holdings PLC, Guaranteeing Trust Holdings PLC, United Bank for Africa PLC, and EcoBank Transnational Incorporated. A This Day analysis of the bank's 2022 financial reports showed that Access Holdings recorded 197.7 billion naira net impairment charge on financial assets in 2022 from the 83.2 billion naira in 2021, while Zenith Bank declared 123.25 billion naira in net impairment charges on financial assets and non-financial assets in 2022 against 59.9 billion naira reported in 2021. Luxury goods firm LVMH made history on Monday by becoming the first European business to have a market worth greater than 500 billion naira. The parent company of brands such as Givenchy, Bulgari, and Sephora shops, as well as Louis Vuitton, Moët & Chandon, Christian Dior, and Hennessy, announced a 17% increase in first quarter sales earlier this month, exceeding analyst projections. Following the findings, its shares reached a record high, and they did so again on Monday. Meanwhile, LVMH chairman Bernard Arnault has just surpassed Elon Musk of Tesla as the world's richest man, extending his lead by over $70 billion for the first time in several months. Big tech companies like Google and Meta platforms face beefed up oversight and potential fines of as much as 10% of global sales for practices that hurt consumers under sweeping new legislation set to be unveiled today by the UK government. Under the proposals, a new digital markets unit in the nation's antitrust regulator will have powers imposing additional obligations on some of Silicon Valley's biggest companies, earmarked as having strategic market status. The new regime will target firms with entrenched market power in at least one digital activity and global sales above $25 billion, or UK revenue in excess of £1 billion. Now, streaming giant Netflix says it plans to invest $2.5 billion in South Korea over the next 4 years to produce Korean TV series, movies, and unscripted shows, doubling the amount the company has invested in the market since 2016. The US streaming service made the announcement after a meeting between South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos. Yoon arrived in Washington, D.C. on Monday for a 6-day state visit. Netflix has introduced more than 80 Korean films and series and spent about $700 million on Korean content between the years 2015 and 2020, according to Netflix VP of Public Policy Dean Garfield. South Africa's electricity minister Hassan has proposed a plan to stave off deeper power cuts by increasing the use of diesel turbines along with building more storage capacity to store the fuel. Minister TransCore Ramakgopa said the state-owned utility Eskom's holdings will need to increase its budget for diesel. The plan showed a special dispensation could reduce the cost by allowing Eskom to directly purchase the fuel. Eskom burns diesel in its open-cycle gas turbines to produce power and help negate higher stages of load shedding. The 30 billion rand proposed to purchase diesel is significantly higher than Eskom has needed to raise before. An Eskom spokesperson said it had already spent 11 billion rand on diesel during the year and that the figure was twice as high as it had budgeted. Technology stockholders breathed a sigh of relief during the week after strong reports from Microsoft and Alphabet for their March quarters. Alphabet's revenue came in at $69.7 billion in the first quarter of this year, beating analysts' estimates of $68.89 billion. The company's shares jumped almost 4% in late trading shortly after it reported strong numbers. Meanwhile, Microsoft Corporation also beat Wall Street estimates for the third quarter revenue, driven by growth in its cloud computing and office productivity software businesses. Microsoft shares gained 4% in aftermarket trading. The company's revenue rose 7% to $52.9 billion in the quarter ended March, inching past the average analyst estimate of $51.02 billion. Still on technology, Britain will block Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of Call of Duty maker Activision Blizzard over its concerns it would hinder competition in cloud gaming, dealing an unexpected blow to the biggest ever deal in gaming. The country's antitrust regulator said that Microsoft's commitment to offer access to Activision's multi-billion-dollar Call of Duty franchise to leading cloud gaming platforms will not effectively remedy its concerns. Microsoft said in a statement it remained fully committed to the acquisition and would appeal the decision, while Activision said it would work aggressively with Microsoft to reverse it. In a dramatic turn of events, and following an exclusive Arise interview earlier in the week in which TransCore plc chairman and Nigerian billionaire Tolu Elumelu had stated that he would welcome the investment in TransCore by his fellow billionaire and investor friend Femi Otedola, well, Otedola has now sold his shares in TransCore plc, according to Nairametrics, an online news and data platform. Prior to the latest development, and over the course of several carefully planned purchases that went almost unnoticed until the acquisition was announced, Otedola had amassed a 6% stake in TransCore. Reliable people with knowledge of the agreement claimed that Otedola and Elumelu had agreed on a plan for the billionaire investor to leave the company. Early on Thursday morning, after both sides had expressed a desire to cooperate, in an apparent bromance, conversations regarding a potential breakup began. Also on Thursday, TransCore informed the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the investing public of the acquisition of new shares by Elumelu's HH Capital Limited. Finally, Nigeria's dollar bond prices fell after the announcement that Africa's largest economy may extend a fuel subsidy beyond June. Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed said on Thursday that the government will work with President-elect Bola Tinubu's representatives to decide when exactly the subsidy will be scrapped. Tinubu, who was announced as winner of the February presidential election, made ending the petrol subsidy, which cost nearly $10 billion last year, one of his priorities. The announcement of a possible extension to the subsidy removal deadline upset investors and dollar bond prices fell, with the premium to hold Nigerian debt over U.S. Treasuries widening to 930 basis points from about 910 basis points on Wednesday. Well, that's it for the market roundup.